5. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome back to another episode of the 28 to 3 podcast. Today, we have 3 prime topics to discuss. Luckily, we again happen to be recording on a day where some, somewhat major Saints news breaks.
Yeah.
Ryan Ramczyk, his knee, looking worse than we originally expected.
Yeah, that is the word coming out.
Yeah, so this is sort of the medical episode. You know, we're going to talk degenerative knee, and also HCDFs. We'll let Nick weigh in with his medical knowledge on.
Yeah, knock on wood that quote unquote medical episodes are not a recurring theme.
Well, it's the Saints, and they will be.
So hence the knock on wood. But yeah, it's funny. I feel like DA was kind of nondescript in his statements from the NFL coaches meeting about some things, and then he gets the Ramczyk and he's like, "Yeah,
spilled his guts."
Yeah, which is. I was surprised when I first heard that he said that, because I'm like, he usually doesn't get that detailed about injuries at all. Most coaches don't. But he was obviously pretty straightforward about Ramczyk's status.
My thing is, it was basically you had a whole bunch of speculation out there. He might not play this year, and then you see the retirement stuff. I think I thought the contract kind of lent itself to retirement being a possibility when we saw that restructure. But I don't see a scenario where he doesn't play the year and then he comes back. So there were certain things I had read out there. It says he might not play this year. If he doesn't play this year, there's something majorly wrong that's probably not going to get better.
Right. I mean, if he sits a whole year out at this point, I mean, how much faith do you, if any, do you really have in him for the following year? Unless it's like everybody's all in on, okay, he's going to give it one more go, but he has to sit a whole year out in order to give it the one more go. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, looking at the cap numbers, there's no way he just retires right now.
It would be too much.
There's a $30 million cap.
I was about to say, because
which, they could split it up over 2 years if you, if you retired after June 1st.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I think what happens is he more than likely doesn't play this year. Goes on IR.
But you mean as a team, you don't want him to retire.
Right. But he's not going to either, because he's going to want the possibility of the money coming in. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to shut the door.
But the restructure was a straight pay cut, too.
A straight pay cut,
So it was a help to
for
the
this
team.
year, not for next year.
Right.
Yeah.
But that could have been like, hey, since we don't know what's going to happen this year, blah, blah, who knows? Again, these are things we don't know. But I didn't see, did they say what the exact procedure was that he had?
I have not seen what the procedure is, no.
I was listening to, I think it was on ESPN New Orleans, Moscona was on, who can definitely annoy the crap out of me sometimes, but every now and then, but he also has some good stuff. They were talking to a doctor who had worked for the Saints. I didn't catch his name, but he called it like a clean-out procedure is what he had. You probably might know better, Nick, what that is, but he said it's one of those things where over time, you do the clean out because you can't avoid cartilage like coming off of where it's supposed to be,
so it's probably
and there being
meniscus,
friction.
But it must be in really bad shape if a meniscus cleanup. For healthy people with a good knee, that's not a long time out even these days. So presumably the knee's in really, really bad shape. It might,
The way this particular doctor described it is that, there's nothing he's going to be able to do to avoid playing while managing the pain from that knee. I mean, I know NFL players play in pain all the time, but they're like, at this point, there's nothing they can do to, like, get the knee back to square one. It's just like, it is what it is. He's just going to have to manage it. And deal with
what
it.
I'm saying is if that procedure is causing him to miss a year, there's generally not a path for it to get better after that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I gleaned from what I heard anyway. Again, this nameless doctor I heard on a radio station leaving work today. But, it didn't sound like any particular amount of time will necessarily improve things. It's just more
It was interesting. They said everything was moving in the right direction, and then all of a sudden in the last couple of weeks, until it wasn't. Right. So it's like, I don't know. But I think we discussed this in depth about the draft, that we might have to be prepared to, completely revamp the line. Pete, did he sign? I didn't even say.
No, he's still floating
so
out there.
He's still free. If they're not calling him right now, I don't know what they're doing. You have to start planning as if he's not here.
Yeah.
And to be handcuffed in the draft, to forced to draft tackle is never good. And we're basically forced to take a tackle there if he's out, just because the options are low on the market. And what are we going in with? Trevor Penning?
Well, no, you're looking at Landon Young, who actually he got some good snaps this year.
But what about the other spot? Because you're talking about both spots.
Yeah, I guess you're going with Penning. I don't think there's any scenario where we do not pick a tackle with either the first or the second round pick. Listening to DA today talking about they're in the market for another pass catcher, not necessarily a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And that points directly to Brock Bowers. I don't know any other way to interpret that.
Yeah, I saw some people on Twitter saying, like, okay, DA, you don't have to basically tell everybody what we're doing.
Right. Well, look,
with
Sean
regard
Payton did that shit over the last couple years, too.
Sometimes they want to throw that smoke out there. If we don't want Bowers, he might be throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, like, Payton would throw it out, and then they would just go draft the person they were talking about. So, I just think what I was getting at is I think that you're getting an offensive tackle with either 14 or 45, but I think with the depth at the position, I think they might actually be fine. And maybe they have to move up a little bit from 45. Like maybe you jump up to, 33, 34, 35.
Yeah, use a fifth rounder.
Use
four of.
And I'm fine with them doing that. Just do not touch the 2025 first round pick. Please do not touch that. You can touch the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh. I don't care. Do not touch that first round pick in 2025.
Yeah, because
it could be Jalen Carter.
The 2025 pick is looking more valuable by the day.
Oh God, man! But look, maybe
I hope it isn't. But
maybe they think the new blocking scheme, the new offensive line coach, the new offense in general, they look at it and they say Penning's a better fit for this.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't feel as bad about him as we do. Saul DeVary's the wild card because look, Saul DeVary was the first pick of the fourth round, if I remember correctly, and he was the guy that like everybody was trying to jump up to get. None of us had heard of him because he came from Old Dominion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like none of us had seen him play. We have no idea if he's good or not. But by all accounts, he's supremely athletic.
Yeah.
Has played tackle and guard. So I think you see him get a real shot, whether it's in that left guard spot or maybe they try him out at tackle.
Yeah.
But I think Landon Young realistically is they're looking at him. He's been in the system, I think, 3 years at this point. So look, he looked fine when he played.
Well, it's one of those things where, are we saying he looked fine because he looked fine for a Saint? Like he looked fine compared to the players we have? Or is he objectively fine as an NFL starter?
Well, I think so I don't remember what game it was.
We kind of get tunnel vision with our own players sometimes.
But remember that, though. Remember all the injuries that occurred on the offensive line last year. And I don't remember what game it was. Nick probably remembers. But there was a game where we ended up having to start multiple backups.
Yep.
And we were all like, oh, man, this is doomsday.
Is that the Jacksonville game?
No, we won the game.
I want to say it was the Giants, maybe.
Bears?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It was one of these games. There were multiple backups playing. I remember Cam Irving had logged significant
and he played
snap.
incredible.
He played great. Landon Young had to play. He played great. Max Garcia, I don't think he did as well as the other ones, but he was still serviceable. And I just remember thinking, this could be catastrophic the way it looks on paper. And then we got to the game, we're like, wow, they actually looked effective.
Yeah. And the new offense coming in, the new coaches, it presents one of those situations for the Saints and for us as jaded Saints fans who can slip into the pessimism real easily, where there's the thing that everyone outside of the organization is saying about the thing we're supposed to get, which is Clint Kubiak's offense, the style scheme that he's always been a part of, is one that makes middle-of-the-road offensive linemen not look like all pros, but look just good.
You could say that, but he's got some absolute studs at offensive line over there, right?
Well, but people were saying with San Fran, it's not like you could point at their offensive line. They have some good ones for sure.
I mean, they got the best one in the last
the
2
best
decades,
one, but
probably.
as a whole, it's not a offensive line filled with all pros. So they're saying that it's a scheme that allows guys who might have a couple of deficiencies overcome that or at least hide it.
They need the athletic lineman, which...
So the question is, like, are we going to get that?
Well,
Because if we get that, then that looks good for the situation we're in.
So let's remember this, though. We also signed Oli Udoh from the Vikings, who has actually started some games.
He started,
I've heard him
17 games.
Yeah, I've heard him. I think it was Underhill comped him, and he was almost like the Vikings version of James Hurst.
He's the guy
in that he can kind of fill in all over the place and can look solid in spurts. So I mean, I don't want to say you can count on him to come in and be a starter, but at the same point, you should be able to play him. I feel fine enough playing him as I do playing like Cam Irving or Max Garcia or Landon Young last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but kind of back to your point too. I hit you up on the reply to Ross Jackson's tweet, which I thought was funny. At first I was like, oh, another mock draft screenshot simulator, but then I looked and every draft pick was a tackle.
Hey,
and so I felt compelled to reply to say, hey, that's funny. That's literally the exact same thing that Max said he'd be okay with on our last episode. And so I'm fine with that in general, except for the pick at 14, because I really do think that, like you said, there's a lot of depth in this year's tackle class. The top of the tackle class looks like, perennial all pros. So if the top 2 guys, being Alt and Fashion, were there, then I think you got to go with one of them. Assuming they get picked before 14, I don't trust, our track record of drafting. I don't trust that we're going to draft a tackle at 14 who's far and away better than whatever tackle we would have drafted at 45. So that being the case, I would much rather see us go for a Bowers if he's there, or maybe even the top wideout. I mean, Mike Tannenbaum on ESPN did a mock draft as a GM.
That draft is awful.
Odunze was there.
That draft is... There's no way in hell that happens. I saw that, and he was getting roasted on Reddit for it.
No,
people are like, how the fuck was this guy a GM?
Everybody gets roasted on Reddit.
Yeah, but he deservedly got... You didn't see this mock draft.
No, but I will say there is a possibility one of these... There's so many locks.
Marvin Harrison went 9 in this draft.
That's not going to happen. But could I see one player that we think no chance leaves the top 10 at 14? I do believe that's possible.
No, I agree with that.
It happens every year. So,
but I don't think it's those 3 receivers. There's no way in hell one of those 3 receivers makes it to 14. No way. Maybe one gets to 10. No way one of them makes it to 14. It's like Lattimore. The year Lattimore fell to us at 10, he was widely considered to be a top 3 player in the draft coming out that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was 12, right? Wasn't he 12th overall? I think Mahomes was 11.
It was the pick.
I mean, they're very well. I could see the world where 5 QBs go before us.
Yeah, and that's the dream.
And that's when one of these just out of nowhere drops. Just
that
because
drop.
Like, let's say someone's
QBs.
Deciding between Bowers and Odunze. Using his example. I don't think he makes it either. I'm just saying. Say they're both there, and then
Odunze's going first out of those 2.
Well, then he goes, and then Bowers makes it, right? So,
but if you do the math,
Bowers is the one I could see being there.
If it's 5,
but someone could jump up for Bowers too.
You got 13
know.
spots, so 13 teams ahead of us. So if you get 5 QBs go, doesn't matter where, and then you have, say, the top 2 tackles go.
5 QBs,
7,
I still don't see that happening.
3 wideouts,
I don't either,
10.
but you can't say never.
And then
Can't say never, but I think 4 is the number.
There's 4 for sure now, I think. I don't think there's any debate on 4.
There's the betting odds for J.J. McCarthy going second.
Supposedly the Commanders love him.
Yeah.
All this is to say, at 14, you're going to be looking at, again, this is all if the top 2 tackles are gone.
Well, hold on. Let's go through it.
Looking at the
Let's
third.
Go through it. So the 3 QBs, let's call it the 4 QBs, because we think that J.J. McCarthy is pretty much locked in at this point.
I think he's locked in
So
now.
let's say Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, in some order, go in the top 14 picks. I think we can all agree on that.
So now you've
that's
got...
4. Hold on. So then we go Joe Alt, He's the first tackle. He's the guy that's the perennial all-pro look to him. Everybody else is competing for second.
Yeah.
So Alt's definitely going to go.
Now you got 5 players gone.
So that's 5. So then you look at the wide receivers. Marvin Harrison absolutely is going top 10. Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors, absolutely. So that's 3 more.
So we're up to 8 players.
We're at 8. Dallas Turner.
That's pick 9. Okay.
So to me,
now there's
those are your 9 that
4
are absolutely going ahead of us. So now there's another tier.
There's 4 picks left before us.
There's 4 picks left before us. So there's another tier that could go in, some order. That's where you need to pray that a Bo Nix get someone reaches for him.
Or Penix
or
to the
Penix.
Raiders or something.
But I've seen mock drafts. I think Jeremiah had two mock drafts. One had Bo Nix at like pick 12, and Penix was not in the first round. The other one had the opposite.
Yeah.
So that shows you how polarizing those two are. You need one of them to go, and preferably both. But other than that, man, that next level of offensive linemen, they're all kind of in a cluster. Fuaga, J.C. Latham, those guys, Fashanu.
Yeah.
Like, that's a separate tier than Alt. One of those guys is going to be there.
Oh, for sure. One of those
guys is absolutely going to be there. So you can get a top offensive lineman. Now, the thing is, what I was talking about a couple weeks ago, they were predominantly right tackles. Now it doesn't matter.
Now it doesn't matter.
Now it doesn't matter because now we're open to take whatever.
I threw out there that I was kind of okay with a right tackle because you need a succession plan for Ramczyk anyway, which is what we said before the knee injury came out. And our offensive line is not good enough to say we're going to turn away talent.
Right. But
I get it.
With the impression that Ramczyk was going to play,
I understand.
You don't want to go right tackle.
I understand the general premise that you don't want to draft a guy who specializes on one side of the line and then say, hey, welcome to the NFL. Now go play a different position. I get that.
It's the same specialty. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. It's what we've done, and it hasn't really worked out that well.
Looking at where you're talking about on a Dunze, though, right? Yeah, you would think Atlanta's going to go Turner, right?
You can
almost guaranteed.
I haven't seen a mock in like a month that doesn't have Atlanta taking.
It makes no sense. The offense is loaded. The defense is old, and everyone's talking about how improved they were. Like they still weren't good. They were okay. So you got to think they take him.
You absolutely think so. Yeah.
Then you got the Bears who just got Keenan Allen, and they got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. They're not drafting receiver. I don't think a lot of people have them drafting receiver
because they think it's like
if you're the Bears, why are you not drafting offensive line? What are you doing? What are you doing? You got a rookie quarterback coming in. You got 2 stud receivers. Pro Bowlers. Then you got Jets. They go Bowers, let's say, right?
I think they go Bowers, yeah.
Okay, then you got Vikings, and in this mock I'm looking at, still has Drake May on the board because of all the people you talked about that could go higher.
Are you looking at the Tannenbaum one?
No. This is Bucky Brooks, just for fun. But
QBs are going 1 through 3.
He has McCarthy 3.
Okay, but more than likely, the Giants are sniffing around a QB, and what are they, 5 or 6? 6, right?
Giants are 6.
But
that would put a receiver back on the board.
There are easily 5 teams. I mean,
let's just put it this way. He's not there. Is Minnesota taking a receiver with JJ and Addison? Probably not.
No.
There's other needs, right?
Yeah.
So you're past them. Then you're to the Broncos, who did just trade Judy, but have a ton of defensive needs.
Minnesota's taking a QB. One way or the other, they're taking a QB.
Okay, so we're on to the Broncos.
Yeah.
We still got one of the receivers on the board by your math, too. So you got Broncos, Raiders.
No, because I don't agree with that mock at all. Because to me, 4, 5, 6 could very well be the wide receivers.
Okay, that's fine. Who's not going then? Okay, so that's what we're talking about.
I gave you the 9. Was it 8 or 9? I gave you 9. I gave you the 9 that I think are absolutely going ahead of us. No questions asked. I don't see any scenario where any of them are available.
So you're saying Fashanu's not going top 9.
I think Fashanu's there when we pick.
But you think Adunze is going in the top 9?
Yes.
And you think Drake May is going in the top 9?
Yes.
Okay. So,
I don't think any way Drake May makes it out of the top 10. No way, no. Adunze either. No way, no. We should sprint to the podium if either of them are available.
Oh, of course.
Or within 2 or 3 picks of us. Trade up and go down.
I mean, or just yell from wherever our guy is.
Look, from 14 to 10, that's not that big of a jump. I'm going to go, if Drake May's there, pay whatever to get there, because that ain't that big of a jump. You can probably get there with a minimal compensation.
Would you pay that? Okay, but you wouldn't get
saying going to 10.
That pick for next
I'm not, no. No, I'd be fine.
It cost Kansas City next year's first, I'm pretty sure. for Pat to go there.
One first to go get Drake May?
Well, first plus your first.
Oh, yeah,
14.
I'd be
That's
down
two
with that.
firsts. That's not a first.
No, I know, but I'd be down with that.
I'd be pissed.
I would not. I'm not good with that.
I'm just not high enough on May. I know you are.
We're not good enough a team to do it like the Chiefs were. If I was the Chiefs coming off a playoff year where we looked good and you knew you were probably an elite quarterback away, because that roster was pretty solid with Alex Smith. I think they won 10 games. I could see it. I think we have too many holes to go get.
We do, but at the same point, it changes.
If they're there, I'm fine with
everything.
it. I don't. You know what? I'm not a big May fan like you are. If he's there when we're there, I'm totally okay with it. Because the league's all about quarterback. We talked about it way too many times. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I wouldn't love it because it's telling us this year's done before the season starts. But I'd be fine bringing him in and letting him watch for a year. But the people directly in front of us, I don't think,
Because it's fine to say. I agree with you that those three wideouts should
be gone.
us, but you do still have to place them with somebody.
But who's going to displace them?
I just think there's a lot
offensive
of other
linemen.
There's a lot of the teams.
Because like you said, they are second tier. But
top
you're
13
assuming, let's just say all four quarterbacks go before Minnesota, right? And they're choosing, what are they going to do? Are they going receiver?
You got to pray that they reach for QB.
Or a tackle.
Because how did they?
One of the three tackles.
If you're Minnesota,
I'm just saying. I'm making a case for one of the receivers.
Right.
Like Corey
That's what I'm
said.
saying. Like,
No, but Minnesota could very easily. They could go cornerback. They could go one of those guys. Yeah,
100%. And I say the same for Denver and Raiders because they're like us. They have holes everywhere. Are they going to go luxury item or are they going to go? I mean,
because the
Raiders need offensive line.
It seems like a stretch to say there will be 5 QBs drafted before us, but what's not a stretch is that there are certainly 5 teams in front of us that absolutely need a QB.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're going to take them.
It doesn't mean they're going to take 5.
They'll look at Bo Nix and say we can trade back into the first round, give up minimal capital, still get him on the 5-year deal, and have a much cheaper.
I agree with that. I'm in agreement. I think it's for quarterback.
It's within
I
the
agree
realm.
with that. I think Minnesota's a wild card. They could trade out of that spot and someone come get an Adunze. I could see that. But
Minnesota just smells like they went and got that second first-round pick. They're going to package it together. They're going up. They're going to go up and get a QB. Somewhere.
And the Cardinals GM has already told everybody we're open for business.
Right. Right.
So it's going to be a wild first half of the first round.
We just really need
Should be.
QBs to go.
Yeah.
Please for Bo Nix. Please for Michael Penix to get in the top.
that'd be great. But who are you in that scenario? Say one.
I
of them
want
squeeze
Brock
it.
to fall. We're all in agreement on this.
Mm-hmm.
We know the Brock situation. It's
Yeah.
going to be the Jets or not the Jets. If they don't take him, he's going to be there. I think.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So,
But to me, I think they're going to. It's a 60 to 70% chance they take him because they're looking at this year. Rodgers, they beefed up offensive linemen. They're going to go give us the weapon that can contribute immediately.
Once he clears the Jets hurdle, then it's what's Sean Payton going to do? Because Sean's going to love that possibility.
Now, Sean has never drafted a tight end in the first round because I wanted him to draft Greg Olson way back in the day. He hasn't picked a tight end. There's been multiple times where I'm like, please pick a tight end.
He's got holes everywhere, too. I
He's
don't
got
think there's
holes
any
everywhere.
way. That team is in bad shape right now.
Yeah, but
It all depends on what they're going to do with
it's also
quarterback.
Sean. If he's got a vision, look at see Taysom Hill. Not that he drafted him high, but he had this vision for this player and was like, "Damn it, we're doing it no matter what."
He was free though.
If he's obsessing,
free.
If he's obsessing over Bowers, who
He might be. You never know with Sean. Like we know that.
That's
You
what I'm saying.
have
He's
no
a
idea.
wild
But
card, so I think that'll still be like a mental hurdle for me.
You really need to hope that they trade up and get a QB.
And eliminate,
That's
eliminate themselves.
The goal is that the Broncos trade up to get a QB and the Vikings trade up to get a QB. And then you have the Commanders, the Bears, and then also the Patriots also taking a QB. That would put 5. That's the dream.
Yeah.
You need that to happen. And then at that point, there's going to be some really good players left. But I'm fully on board with give me Brock in the first and give me the best offensive lineman in the second.
Because
the flip side is if Brock is gone,
yeah,
give me the best offensive lineman in the first and give me Keon Coleman in the second.
yeah.
give me the best player that's there. If one of these ones that we're talking about that we all believe there are 10.
Yeah, but I think it's got to be offensive line at this point.
But
because
I'm just saying
we're in a corner.
I just
man.
don't. I don't want us to draft.
If you get what.
They'll be worth the 14th pick, though.
Are we
is
not
what
all
I'm
in
getting
agreement there are 10 players that separate themselves from everyone else? I think it's 10.
at. To me, there's 9.
The 9 that Max just
So
laid
you're
out.
not putting Bowers in there.
Oh, I am putting putting
10.
Bowers in there, but I do think Bowers is the one with a chance to get out of the top 10.
I agree, but
Yes,
you
there's
would
10.
put him
No, you're
from a
right.
talent point. There's 10 guys that we all think are.
Yeah. No, you're right. There are 10 players that
There's
are
a
head and
tier.
shoulders
And
above
after that,
everybody
we're
else.
kind of like, if one of those 10's there, I want us to go up to the podium and draft them. I don't care what position it is.
But
Because
to
I
me-
think they're all better.
Right, but the only one...
That's why I agree with you, because if we have this backed in a corner mentality about our offensive tackle situation, which is bad, which is not good.
No, we're saying the same thing.
But- no,
I just don't think there's any way any of the 10, other than Bowers. I think Bowers is the only one with a
Yeah.
realistic chance of being there,
And-
only because of the position.
So
Because you draft a tight end in the top 10, you're automatically he's one of the highest paid tight ends in the league.
That's what I'm saying. Like the reactionary,
teams don't do that.
The reactionary
They do it for
takes
running back.
of
Right, but look,
Like-
it went horribly wrong with Kyle Pitts. Like, Kyle Pitts hasn't done shit.
yeah.
Who was the other one? Kellen Winslow didn't do shit.
Evan Ingram. There's a ton of
No,
them.
Evan Ingram was a late first-round pick.
So,
But still, first round pick.
But
that's
Kellen
why
Winslow,
for me,
Vernon Davis, all those guys, none of those guys hit the potential they were supposed to hit.
the snap reaction of Ramczyk's in terrible shape. Therefore, we have to go tackle. We're gonna go tackle now at 14. I'm not there. Like
You-
45.
no, you're missing my point.
Yes.
I'm
just adding to
if
it.
any
I'm
of the 10 are there, you take them and say, fuck offensive line.
Max,
Yeah.
you need to go bet a 9-way parlay that all 9 of those guys are drafted in the top 10.
Find it for
You're
me. I'll
that
bet it.
you're that
I
confident.
am that confident in it. But no, I'm with you. If any of those, I think we're all in agreement here.
Yeah.
If any of those 10 quote unquote elite players are available at 14, you say, fuck need, give me this guy.
Yeah.
Whichever one's there. And if two
That's
of them
where
are
I'm
there, no, we're all on the same page with
we're-
that.
yeah.
I just think that the only one of those 10 who has a realistic chance of being there at 14 is Bowers.
Yeah.
Now, if none of the 10 are there, give me the offensive line.
So real quick, you're not counting Fashanu in the top
No.
10.
No.
Okay.
I've seen him mock
He could
anywhere
go
from,
top 10 very easily.
He could, but he
Yeah.
could also go 20.
Yeah.
He's in that tier where his range is anywhere from 11 to not even 11.
You know, and there's always a surprise guy in the top 10 every year. I feel like every year there's like someone comes up at pick 7 or 8, and it's like, whoa, no one had him.
I would be thrilled with Fashanu at 14.
And thankfully, the Jets and the Raiders are both ahead of us. So maybe they could pick somebody who's like 20 on everybody else's draft board. Like, what the hell was that?
I mean, the Jets
know.
aren't doing that. The Jets, they're locked in on they got to win with Rodgers this year.
They've actually drafted half decent past couple drafts.
Better than
Before-
half decent. Like
Better than
incredible.
half
Well, yeah,
decent.
Like
they're
incredible.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. I mean, they've
Yeah,
gone
they're not the
Brees
laughing
Hall.
stock.
they
you're
haven't
making them
drafted
out to
like
be.
our old selves.
Their last two
our
drafts,
younger,
they have stocked up.
They're stocked up. They're fine. They're
not your
drafting
mom
fine.
and dad's draft, Jets drafts anymore.
No, it's not.
Before we wrap up this episode, we want to talk about the Chase Young situation that he confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, now that we know it's an ACDF, Nick, you want to? I guess you can just kind of clarify.
Yeah, I think the original reports of 3 months. I mean, that's crazy optimistic. This is a great surgery, like we talked about last time. People do very well, and you saw. I'm sure many people saw that Hunter from the Vikings had this done in the offseason, I think before last year, and he dominated and got a huge deal this year. This is not a very. I don't want to say any surgery is not risky, but this should fix the problem. The only thing is, how soon will he be fully cleared to play defensive end? Because he had surgery very late. That's my question of why.
Yeah, last week.
Why did he not, coming off the Super Bowl,
Well, they're
get
saying
this done?
They're saying 4 to 6 months. That job.
So that changed. So the original report was, maybe into training camp, and I think we had calculated that to just over 3 months. So
Right.
they're saying 4 to 6. I think that's accurate.
that puts you right around September.
Okay, if you get 4, right? So 6 months would be when? What game would 6
No,
months?
5 full months would put you in the beginning of
So he
September.
misses 4 to 5 games if it's 6 months. I think that's a safe bet. That's what I was going to say, because I think we said, I said we're looking at like week 4 or 5. Like, very well he could come out on IR to start the season for that little chunk, and he'd be right back after that. You know, because he can do a lot of
he can do it.
conditioning and get in shape, but to like get into like football shape, he can't do a lot of that stuff until he's fully healed.
Yeah.
So it would have been much nicer if he had this surgery a month ago when he could have,
Right.
or plus. But I get it. He was a free agent. It's a different circumstance. You've got to worry about your contract first and just, take out all risk. But it would if he'd have had it right after the Super Bowl, I'd feel pretty good about him starting the season
Yeah.
from what 5 days ago he actually had it, something like that.
Yeah, last week.
From last week. It's possible, but I don't think you're going to see him out there, aggressively early either.
Yeah.
They'll be pretty cautious with this and make sure he's fully healed and ready to go. The one thing I will say is if he was dealing with this all of last year, which is what they said, and he still had 7.5 sacks, this is going to be a noticeable difference if he's having this surgery in his strength.
Especially if he feels that kind of boost, I feel better. And just kind of starts flying around.
It could end up being a really good signing if that's the case.
Yeah, it's just a shame, like you said, that he waited until the end of March to get this surgery. Because I think if, the whole complexion of this signing changes if he gets that surgery right after their season ends.
It's kind of like...
right after the Super Bowl, get the surgery and then be in training camp, get the reps in, hit the ground running.
And like we said on the episode where we talked about the signing, it's not a coincidence that he did it the day after he signed. He was
waiting to get the contract.
The contract, we were very critical.
The nature of the free agency period timing.
But the contract was done correctly. So we were very critical of it not knowing the structure. Now that we know the structure, the risk is minimal.
Great contract, yeah.
It was done the right way. It's basically predicated on him playing.
Yeah, the Saints really did a good job of trickling out very important information day by day by day. Yeah. It's day one, we signed him. Woohoo.
And I love Dogging Loomis any chance I can.
Day two, he's in a neck brace on Joe Horn's cell phone Twitter. Day three, we did sign him to a smart contract.
It was. And
I said, if we could have just got all that information on day one, that'd have been great. But
it's like we talked about
not how it works.
last episode. If he was the first signing and they gave us all that information and then they follow it up with Stanley Morgan and Cedric Wilson and Oli Udoh,
totally different perspective.
You know what? It's fine. That's a good haul.
Yeah.
And especially if he's had the surgery already.
It's fine. It was very careful. It was very careful free agency. I think we were actually expecting that, if we're being honest. The other thing that was confirmed that we talked about is that Gay is going to compete, right?
Yeah, for the weak side linebacker
I
spot.
Still think, back to Corey's thing, I think we're going to run a lot more 4-3. Yeah. Yes, maybe they're competing in the 2 linebacker set a lot, but I think you're going to see a lot more 4-3 this year. I don't know why.
Well, I know why, because you have
right,
3 starting
you
caliber.
saw us go to it at the end of the year, and you've got 3 good players, correct?
And you got coaches that can coach it.
Right. So defensive line's weak still, we think. We'll see. We didn't do a whole lot other than Chase. So we'll see how that kind of, in the run game especially, that's not necessarily his forte. It makes sense to go with an extra linebacker there for maybe early downs only. He can cover a little bit. Pete can still cover a little bit. They're pretty versatile guys. We know what DeMario can do. So that was good to hear, and I think competition's the best thing you can have.
Yeah.
And get them both on the field. I think Warner's one of our best players, so I think he's going to be on the field, but I also think Gay's going to be on the field a lot.
It's like keep it simple. Put your best players, as many of your best players on the field at the same time as possible.
Yeah.
That means running a 4-3 because you got a 3rd starting caliber linebacker now, and your
and you
3rd
just let a starting
linebacker
safety go
is better comparatively to your slot corner who you would have to put on the field if you had a 2 linebacker set. Then run 3 linebackers. Now, obviously, down in distance and all that stuff can change that. But if you're talking about what's your base defense, I'd much rather go with that 4-3.
Right. With Magon, we would see him drop down in those extra safety sets. So maybe losing him, and they targeted Gay thinking okay, we can run some similar stuff just with a linebacker instead of a safety that's dropping down.
Yeah, sadly, Gay's faster than May.
I was about to say, there's plenty of times where May looked like a linebacker based on his speed and agility.
100%.
More than a safety.
Yeah,
so
I didn't
that's
love
good
that
to hear.
sign.
I wasn't a big fan of May the whole time. I was just kind of like, I don't know. He's going to be last in tackles.
I understand why they signed May. I don't understand why you signed May for a couple $1 million less than Marcus Williams. When Marcus Williams, you had brought him up in the system.
Yeah, that was terrible.
You had taken all of the beating. He was a very young guy when we let him go. And then you give a guy who's coming off an Achilles injury.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Made no sense.
It was like
no sense.
Line in the sand, digging their heels in. We're not coming off of our price. And it's like, well, okay. Well,
now
Marcus
you got
May
a
was
player that's half as good.
See ya.
In my opinion. Right.
Well, we don't have that player anymore, so that's good.
Yeah.
He hasn't signed with anybody either. It's so funny. A lot of these guys, like Pete hasn't signed, Michael Thomas hasn't signed.
I haven't gone through the available list of safeties, but there's got to be a lot of
there
names
were so many
on there.
That's
There's
the
so
problem.
many of them,
That's the problem for May. There's so many.
The market is for shit.
Isn't that funny, though? You look at the Saints guys, everybody was freaking out about losing, and most of them are still sitting there available.
I mean,
the market for Mike Thomas is a minimum contract. I think. Look,
I haven't heard of him taking a visit yet.
I know we love him, at doing what he did with us, but the truth is he's 4 years straight injured. That is not going to get any contract out in the open market.
No.
His best chance of getting paid any money was here. And we did that last year. Ran it back one more time, and then we washed our hands of it. And I know he's been going crazy a little bit. Yeah,
yeah,
he's been slamming. But look, the guys, I hate to see him doing that because
it doesn't help his value.
No, it doesn't help his value. And look, it's unlucky. It's not. No one really, I don't think, did anything to hurt you. He did his own plan the whole time.
Well,
right?
No one did anything.
They wanted him to get surgery. He didn't get surgery. So, but now it's their fault.
The problem is all you hear about on Twitter and Facebook and anywhere else is the hospital ball that Derek Carr threw to him. It's like
I don't agree with the hospital
Go
ball.
watch that play. It wasn't bad at all.
That shit happens. It's fucking football.
When I read Michael Thomas's tweets, like there's some reading between the lines there. I mean, like you kind of read through the tone he's coming through with, but honestly, like the one he had today, I don't think he was wrong. I mean, he's like, this sounds kind of familiar. Just insert a different player's name, and if you do that,
dude, just let it go. Go sign somewhere.
No, I don't.
But you talking about the injury thing?
Yeah. No, you were talking about Ramczyk when that came out, and he's talking about how he said DA should do his own research. You saw that part?
Yeah.
When he was talking about it, he's like, well, he listens to the trainers. It's like, yeah, he listens to the fucking trainers.
That's what he should do. That's why they're hired.
That's
what they're there for.
Yeah. I think it's 50-50, but MT has said some shit that seems pretty fucking valid.
Well, tell us what you think.
Some other.
What's just your opinion? What do you think makes a lot of sense from what he said in this whole thing?
The thing with Duncan, the whole thing about a loser mentality with DA. I agreed when he came out with that. When he said it's a loser, I think it was his reply to Adam. I mean, he could have replied to anybody, just so happened to be Adam. But like his whole thing about other coaches don't handle things. I'm not going to remember it word for word, and I don't have time to pull it up right now, but other coaches don't handle it this way. Handling things like expecting lower results is loser mentality. I think he was spot on with that with DA from what we've seen so far.
But it's so funny. DA went out to California last year, and I'm not at all defending DA. I hate DA, but DA went out to California, visited with Michael Thomas for a couple of days.
Sounds like spilled milk to me, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's like,
sorry.
I don't disagree with.
He came back.
I don't disagree with the whole. If anyone wants to argue that, like, if he's trying to do the best for himself, or he's flailing, he's pissed off, he's acting like certain. Yeah, it is how he's acting, but the words that he's been saying, a lot of them to me seem.
My thing is the point he's trying to make has nothing to do with him calling Dennis Allen a loser. The point, it has nothing to do with his situation, in my opinion. His situation is. He was left in a game too long. He got an injury that has just contributed to him consistently being injured for 4 years. Yeah. It's unlucky. It's not his fault either. I'm not blaming Mike Thomas. This is just unlucky stuff.
It's bad luck.
And he has to just accept that, like all of us, none of us wanted his career to go this way. He was on a path that was legendary, and we all loved it, right? And luck killed him while Sean Payton was still here. That's when it all ended. It doesn't have anything to do with Dennis Allen. This is all just like spitting venom because he's upset about where he's at right now. Yeah. And I get it because it sucks and it's not fair that he got injured that way. And every time he's tried to come back and worked his ass off, it didn't work out. But the truth is he has been injured 4 years. This is a brutal business. You've made more money than you deserve the last 4 years if you're talking about production. And it's just time to accept that it didn't go your way. Yeah, you don't have to just slam everyone on the way out the door.
Just move on at this point.
Talking about a hospital ball, quarterbacks throw that pass every game. Every single team. Pat Mahomes throws that ball.
I agree with the idea that he does not have to be saying anything that he's saying. I think that the things that he is saying, though, are, why would he just... I mean, is it just because he's mad that he's just spewing this?
Yes, that's what I think.
And do we think he's making it up?
What's his goal? What's his goal right now?
I think initially his first spewing of the offseason anyway was after the Jeff Duncan thing. And
I agree with what he said on Jeff Duncan, but that was unrelated to himself, in my opinion, as much as that was just a statement of his feeling of Duncan. And
Yeah.
Nothing against Duggan. I think like he's right about his role in the Saints organization and how they work that thing.
I think what you have with MT, he's never been one to shy away from just speaking his mind. If he's, thinking something, he says it. Generally, he's not talking all the time. When he was in his prime, he wasn't talking bullshit like the whole time he was winning. Yeah. But now that he's pissed off, he's saying shit, and it just, to me, I don't really, when I read it, I don't read someone who's just kind of baiting people. He
said negative stuff about Drew.
Yeah,
about throwing the ball.
Fuck
I mean,
himself
come
on
on. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like,
yeah.
This is way back.
Michael Thomas's biggest issue is when he's not playing, whether it's injury or whatnot.
He's miserable.
He can't fucking help himself but to just foam diarrhea at the mouth. But when he's playing, he keeps quiet and he's a killer. Yeah. The problem is he hasn't really played in 4 years, so all we have to do is like watch him on Twitter or just basically have a public meltdown every
here's the thing. I don't disagree with any of that. The question is the content of what he's saying now that he is not playing and he is pissed off and having, the word vomit, is the vomit like real or not real?
We know DA's a loser. He's not telling us anything we don't know.
It doesn't have anything to do with him. Like, that's fine. On the way out the door, you want to call a coach a loser?
Yeah,
have a good time.
Whatever.
But he's doing it in reference to, I'm injured because of this whole thing.
Yeah, it's like,
and that's the stance he's taken, and that's why he jumped on the Ramczyk thing. And it's like, dude, it was unlucky.
I think
no one did anything to you.
I think his words are less geared towards, I'm injured because, like, I'm blaming the team for being injured, more so than it is the team is trying to spin this as a Mike was a problem and we're fine with letting him go. Like,
are they, though?
I have never gotten that impression.
Why?
That's what I think he's doing. I mean,
that's what he thinks. I agree with you there. I think he thinks that, but I don't see anything.
I mean,
why does the team need to justify letting Mike Thomas go? He hasn't played in 4 years.
I mean, because he's an NFL
terrible.
career record holder. Is
Who
all
cares?
that stuff.
That was 4 years ago.
Boy,
dude.
he hasn't done anything in 4 years.
I agree. I know he hasn't.
Honestly, he just needs to sign with a new team and just fucking get to work on having a good season.
I want him to too. I want to see him succeed.
I'm honestly tired of hearing him talk and tweet. It's ridiculous.
I absolutely hope he has a complete resurgence and kills it wherever he goes.
Yeah.
My problem with this is he has not been available. And we all know that is the biggest thing. It doesn't have to do with the team. He has not been available. He's been hurt. It's not the rehab. It doesn't have anything to do with the team. It was bad luck. And I think this is probably what the rest of his career is going to look like if we're looking at how it's when this has happened to other players, right?
Yeah.
When it starts to happen like that and it's a lower leg injury, stuff like that, it just keeps coming back.
Do we think he's had the departure that we would have expected? I mean,
no one saw this coming.
Like the
now,
way.
Well, like, 4 years ago, no one saw this coming. 2 years ago, I saw this coming.
Like the bad taste in both mouths of like him and the team.
Let me ask you this.
Like
I saw something about
there was no celebrating.
There was no celebrating.
There goes our best receiver.
If you're the Saints,
if
you're the Saints, and he's putting all this out there right now, you're going to do some big Michael Thomas promo retirement, not retirement, but like leaving. No, you're just not gonna. You're just gonna let it go.
Yeah,
you're gonna leave it alone. You're gonna rise above it.
But they didn't really do anything celebratory, or when they decided they've decided a while ago that like we're not bringing him back, right?
Because he's been running his mouth on social media for the last 5 months since he got hurt.
It's when he's dogging out all your current players.
Yeah, why
and
the
coaches,
hell would they celebrate him?
Like that's the ending he's asking for, and that's what he's getting, and it's fine.
I mean, he's honestly reaping what he sowed.
It's fine.
It's fine. It is what it is.
I get it. We would all love to.
I think both sides could have come to a better medium than where
they could.
I think the Saints could have done more to say like, holy shit, we've never had anybody like you. Don't know when we will again. And Mike also could have been like,
they could have, but I'll be honest with you.
Bruce,
They could have done that, but I'll be honest with you, I really don't care at this point that they didn't, because it's like Nick said, the way he's been running his mouth on social media, railing on everybody.
Yeah.
And the reality is, this dude is closer to Tennessee Titan Julio Jones than he is to Atlanta Falcons Julio Jones. Yeah. And there's a very real possibility you're just going to see this dude bounce from team to team over the next 2 or 3 years before he retires.
Here's the thing. He had a 4-year run that is incredible, right? Was it 4 or 5?
Whatever it was,
4-year run.
Until he got hurt,
his career
incredible.
Is as mid as it gets as a career. It is not a great career.
Yeah.
It is not in the top. I don't even know if he's in the top 100 of receiving yards in the NFL career.
Well, yeah, because he didn't play enough years to call it a great
career. But that matters,
yeah.
okay? Like he views himself as Offensive Player of the Year Michael Thomas still.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas has not been that guy in 4 years, which is an eternity in football. I have no problem with the Saints just saying, okay, we're moving on. We really tried to run it back one more time. They wanted to see him do well. They wouldn't have brought him back and try to work all that out if they didn't want to see him do well.
Correct.
And so if he feels he needs to like dog everybody on the way out the door, do whatever you got to do, but don't expect a kind send-off.
Yeah.
It's like
I think the tide turned when he started spewing during the year. During the season, you know.
But what I'm saying is he did that to Breeze. Then he does it to Carr. Then he does I can't put any stock into the things you're saying about his opinion, because if you're going to go after Drew Brees here,
you can go.
That's
fuck
a bold
yourself at that
statement,
point,
dude.
yeah.
It's and I get it. Drew couldn't throw deep anymore, and that's what it was all related to and all that. But Drew was balling out those last few years still, even though we couldn't throw deep. I get it. He's also the guy who got you the NFL record for receptions.
Yeah.
And without him, you have proven nothing. So, like, he was willing to say negative stuff about that guy. It's. I just think that's his thing, right? Like,
I think part of it too. You know, the things he's saying are in the mold of, you know, you can't trust what DA's saying just because it's DA saying it about a player being injured or about whether a guy wants to be here or not, doesn't want to be here, you know. But I think what maybe something that people aren't saying that MT doesn't realize is that people already know that.
Yeah,
like people already think that. You know, I don't.
The other thing I don't
think there's
Corey,
a whole,
do you think
huge
this
swath
happens?
of Saints fans that are like, man, if DA said it, then we got to believe DA on this one. I mean,
do you think
no one says that.
Do you think all the NFL coaches don't do that? That's the business.
Yeah.
They hide what they need to hide. They put out there what they need to put out there. This is happening in every organization.
I think there's varying degrees of like how transparent coaches are with their own players, but that's something we'll never really know.
Right.
You know, maybe Mike's trying to shine a light on that like, hey, DA is not even transparent with us.
He's not trying to do anything productive.
You know who the most transparent teams are? The teams that are winning. Okay?
Yeah.
When you're winning, you can be honest. You can say whatever you want. Everything's great.
Doesn't matter because shit's working.
Yeah. Every other team in the league that's in the middle to the bottom is just trying to manage PR, trying to do so. Why are we getting upset if they're not showing their cards on everything? I think that's just business in the NFL.
I could care less.
And again, not making excuses for DA. I'm
be
just
more
saying
upset if
I don't think he's doing anything that's so outlandish that isn't happening everywhere.
DA is bad at his job. We know this.
Yeah. I'd be more pissed about.
He's also bad at general PR.
You know,
he's horrible.
Say this year is a complete dumpster fire, which it could be, and DA is gone at the end of it, and then the postmortem comes out that like DA would tell player A one thing and then tell player B something totally different. Like, I'd be much more pissed about him not being transparent with his own players than I would be about him not being transparent with us. You know, he owes the fans nothing on the way of transparency except for what he's required to do by league rule about injuries and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But if it comes to light that like he was, you know, had different sets of standards for different players,
absolutely,
then that's fucked up.
That's speculation, but you're right. If that's the case, of course that would be fucked up. Thing.
I won't care. Just get him out of here. If he's gone, I don't even want to look back at it. I just want to slam the door on the DA error and be done with it. I don't even want to rehash it and dissect it, any of that.
Yep. So, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's to say we said these things all season long, like the locker room's falling apart, and then you just see Cam and DeMario, just everything. You know, we're just busting our ass trying to win, and
Honey Badger too.
And you have leaders, and he may be a loser for sure, but do I think the locker room is lost and all this, the stuff that Mike's kind of insinuates? I don't know. It's just, I don't think it's a great team. Talent-wise, I don't. And it doesn't have a coach that is going to elevate a mid-team. Right. We know that, right? I don't know how many of those exist in the world, though. They're very few and far between of a coach that can take a mid-level team and turn them into something better than that or great. You have to have the players to work with, right? Every Super Bowl has had, you know, an incredible team. Everyone, except for maybe
the recent ones. Yeah.
The Eagles one being the outlier after watching that Patriots special, like how they won that Super Bowl. Well, benching Malcolm Butler probably won them that Super Bowl. But you know, it's having that quarterback like we talked about, and we haven't had that since Drew. And we're, as fans, experiencing what it's like not to have that for the first time in a really long time, and we're having a really tough time with it.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
We are struggling.
And there's a lot of Saints fans that are new at this.
It's kind of one of those things that where people were like, hey, whether it's sports or anything else, where it's like, hey, like when one day it's gonna be pretty rough.
Yeah.
And then like, or like you're
And
the
guess
kid.
what? It's not even
Like
like,
Dude, 9-8 is not rough.
it's not rough. That's
It's
what I'm
not
saying.
rough.
The last 3 seasons were miserable. We're one game under 500.
It's like the
So,
parents.
This is light work, dude.
It's the parents telling the kid like, hey, when you're under mom and dad's roof right now, but one of these days we're not going to be able to support you. And the kid's like, yeah, I'll
What
be
do you think
fine.
happens with the
And then the
Carolina
kid goes out
season?
in the real world and is like, this sucks.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
exactly.
imagine this city if they were going through a Carolina
Carolina
right
season.
now.
Or like,
Okay.
or even a Pittsburgh.
So,
just there's a lot of teams that are in worse spots than.
Did you say Pittsburgh's in a worse spot
Pittsburgh
than
hasn't
us?
lost in a season in like 20 years.
I mean, they made the playoffs, but like in terms of their QB situation, like
But
They're in a way better spot than us. What are you talking about?
they're mid like us, but they haven't experienced horrible yet, like Carolina or like the
Mike
Giants.
Tomlin hasn't
or
had a losing record.
right. So what I'm saying
yeah,
is,
I mean,
So
yeah, I
that's,
guess I'd
that's
rather.
a bad analogy, dude.
I'd rather be. They're
similar
there was
to
a
us.
point
They're
last
similar
year
to
where like
us.
their offense was looking even more inept than ours.
Yeah.
That's kind of
That's
what
fine.
I'm.
They fired the guy and they
referring
went and
to.
got 2 quarterback options now and let him fight it out.
They've redeemed themselves. I guess I was talking about.
they
Pittsburgh.
did a great job.
They did a great job. They looked at Kenny Pickett. They said, he's not the guy. Get out of here.
I was thinking more like during the season last year how their QB play was looking, but they've redeemed themselves.
They have Mike Tomlin, who's one of the best coaches ever.
We can get all upset and everything because we're not Super Bowl contenders. We are not Super Bowl contenders.
Right.
We need to accept that and we need to move on. We weren't last year, except Max
We're
predicted
not
it.
this year. Well, it's every year. We're going to do that every year. I'm going to do it this year.
We're not contenders this year.
I don't think anybody before the 2009 season said this is a Super Bowl contending team.
I did. I say it every year, whether we are or we're not.
Anyone outside of Max or
Let me tell you, I felt we were a Super Bowl contender every year Drew Brees was here after seeing what he did those
In
first couple
2006.
seasons.
Yeah.
Because
There's a chance.
you knew there was always a chance. And we don't have that anymore. We know we don't have a Super Bowl roster. And, we know DA isn't going to make them, but
He's not
again,
elevating anybody.
He's not going to elevate.
If we have any postseason success that this team happens to come across, will be despite Dennis
best
Allen,
case scenario
not
for
because
this
of him.
team, like best case scenario is like Tampa winning a game they shouldn't win. They're not any good. They win a playoff game. They get that on the tally. Then they shit the bed and they're out. That's our ceiling right now, right?
Yeah.
Is to get a lucky draw, get a struggling team in the playoffs, maybe win a game. But that's kind of the ceiling.
Well, we're gonna have to get lucky because like those proverbial like calls that when you see it where someone says, "Oh, that team won because they just outcoached the other team," like we're not gonna get those kind of coaching wins. We're gonna have to win it based on X's and O's by DA being a good defensive coach and by Kubiak doing his thing on the offense.
Yeah, and theoretically,
and just hoping that we never get into those game management situations where it's all on the coach, like where the game completely falls on a head coaching decision here, a head coaching decision there, because we're going to win by DA's defense and then Clint on the offense. That's how it's going to have to work. I mean,
That's fine. That's most teams.
Yeah, I don't know that that's his biggest weakness, but I get what you're saying. The in-game stuff hasn't been atrocious.
It's been like
It's the start of games and the game plan coming out of the gate that's really been the horrible thing to me for Dennis Allen. We come out in these games and we're flat until halftime multiple times this year, and then we adjust a couple things that seemed obvious to everyone watching, and all of a sudden we're playing great. That's, to me, his biggest fault.
Yeah.
But to your point, he's not going to make it. You don't want to be in a coaching battle if it's down to the coaches.
And when you say
know you're
coaching,
at a
like-
disadvantage.
But
The
like
things
you
that-
said, how many coaches are there that are truly like,
Gonna-
if it gets into that?
Not many.
No, there's not many.
Not many.
and there's not many that have won Super Bowls.
Yeah,
That's right.
But
So
that's the whole
that's-
point, though. Like, DA is, realistically, he's in the middle of the pack with the coaches. There's a giant tier.
Yeah, it's just
of
like
these
quarterbacks,
guys.
man.
It's just
It's
like
just like
quarterbacks. You either have a top 5 one or you don't.
Right, we're going to have to make up for what he can't do elsewhere.
And something Corey said on the past podcast, which I agree with, I think we were talking about the Kubiak thing, is like, why not hire the young guy you don't know about? Because that's the only way you're going to find the next great coach. They're not available.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got to guess, and you've got to go try something and hope you hit a home run.
That's what we did with Peyton.
Exactly. That's the prime example.
Yeah. So,
So there we go. We got him. We got Kubiak. We got the next Peyton. He's going to be the coach after DA gets fired, and we're going to win the Super Bowl.
He very well
Boom.
could be. That could be the whole plan. And,
Hey, bada bing, bada boom.
maybe it works. But tell you what, he's still going to need a quarterback.
Yeah.
A top 10 guy. And we went all in on Carr. By the time we're ready for that guy who could get in there, And I still stand by, if you gave Carr a perfect situation, he could have top 10 seasons and win. This is nowhere near a perfect situation. It's not going to happen. It's just not. He's going to be that middle 11 to 20 guy that we talked about on the previous episode, unless you give him not weapons that are going to be good. We need A.J. Brown. We need DeAndre Hopkins. We need elite level talent around him and an offensive line that keeps him standing for him to elevate the team.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and wrap it up with this. I think we forgot to talk about how Mickey Loomis did talk about that this is going to be a multi-year process of getting the cap back in order.
That's right. You did speak to that.
So,
I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but
that was the biggest takeaway. And, that to
clean.
me says it's going to be this year and next year at the very least, where they are not being big players in free agency.
Yeah.
They're going to go ahead and not extend these contracts that they got forced into extending, once the cap dipped down during COVID. So the reality is we're in for probably 2 years of not much fun.
He at least said on the record the thing that everyone presumed was
right.
happening.
So the way it looks to me is the next quarterback, the one that you take a swing for, it's probably going to be 2027 in that draft.
No, 26.
That's a long way away.
2026, 2027 in that range.
Carr's here 24 and 25 now, right? We know that.
But
and that's fine. If you're
So
trying to
you're already going into the 24 draft in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So you got the 25 one. I don't think it's going to be that one. So 26 or 27, that's going to be where you look at. I think we're bad enough to get a QB.
If you think Carr's actually under center for 25, like this year and then next year.
Well, due to the restructure,
Unless, the contract,
I think that's for
likely.
sure.
Unless you draft a QB, you're going to have to pay for one.
No, you're going to draft one. There's not anybody that you're going to go get.
So
So what I'm saying is I would expect the wheels probably finally come to fall off around 25 or 26.
Well, the question is
Let me
gonna
ask
be,
you this.
Is Loomis going to be one, if he knows he's going to have to draft his next QB instead of signing the huge-ass QB contract for an existing guy, is he one to draft to let a guy sit or draft
No.
to
What
play
I'm saying
right away?
is I think it's finally going to get to the point where the wheels come off and we get a top 5 pick.
Just
like that
at what point does it
scenario
happen?
is-
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Are we a 2017 draft away from being competitive?
Not this year because you only got the first. You got 14, 45, and then you don't have anything until the 5th round.
Well, I think
it
it's
ain't
the
happening
idea
this
of-
year.
Well, if you hit the first two and then you hit one of that, and you get 3 legit impact players out of one draft,
It's the idea of hitting.
right?
You know, like
if you hit, I mean, you hit a
doesn't matter.
Lattimore, Kamara, and
Yeah, I hear you,
Ramczyk.
but without a third or a fourth, the likelihood of that.
I think
think about it. 2017, we had 2 first-round picks. We had a second. We had 2 thirds, I think.
Wait, we didn't. Who did we draft in the second that year?
Second was Marcus Williams.
Oh, that's right.
Third was Kamara.
Well, we went up to get Kamara. We didn't have a third, right? Or
right,
did
but we went up and got him.
Right.
Anzalone was, I want to say, a fourth,
and then Hendrickson was a 5th or a 6th,
or a 5th.
and then
Who's the other one?
he didn't do anything for us. The other one,
Yeah.
he's a good player. He left, defensive tackle.
I guess what I'm getting at is we had draft capital for that draft. We don't have draft capital for this draft. We had a higher pick to begin with, and then we also had the second first-round pick.
Well, the other biggest reason why that draft translated into such immediate success is tiny little thing. They went into a team led by Drew Brees at quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, huge. So no draft, as good as it's going to be, is going to a team with that kind of.
And I'm not saying
built-in-
Super Bowl contender, but if you nail the draft and you get 3 starters that of a Marcus Williams level, and let's not even say we have
I don't know.
Lattimore, but like you get a Kamara on offense, doesn't have to be a running back, just that type of impact, and then you nail 2 defensive starters or an offensive line, like you get a Ramczyk, maybe it's the 14th pick, whatever. You shore up the line, you get an impact skill player somehow wherever, and then you get a defensive player that contributes. Then does it change your mind? Like, assuming I'm not saying it's going to change your mind beforehand, but let's say they are those type of players. Do you see that we compete not as a Super Bowl contender, but as we keep punting it down the road, meaning not the contracts, but we can still keep competitive.
You keep trying to win now at that
Right.
point. Yeah. I mean, look, if you hit a draft that like the one you described, where you get a bunch of Marcus Williams level guys, I just don't see any way in hell you're doing it when you had the 14th pick, the 45th pick, and then fifth rounders.
Well, 14th and 45th should be starters.
They should be, but look at last
Well,
year. Foskey didn't do a damn thing.
I think what Nick is saying is no matter where.
No, I know what he's saying.
No matter where they're drafting.
Right, but the likelihood of getting to fifth rounders.
You get like 7 starters out of a draft. I don't think it has.
Henderson wasn't a starter right out the gate.
No, he wasn't.
Eventual starters.
Yeah.
But, my thing for why, even if we
You need more swings.
a 2017 caliber draft is not, I don't think it would have the same impact because that team had 3 things that we don't.
Payton.
Hall of Fame QB, top shelf offensive line, and Sean Payton is the coach.
Yeah, and the other thing is...
We don't have those 3 things, so as good as our draft might be this year, it's not going to have the impact that draft did because that draft went in to an amazing situation.
Because the reason I say that, we were coming off what, 7-9, 7-9.
But they still had such great bones. It was like,
well, you had the quarterback. You had the quarterback.
But the studs were
a 7-9 for this past team would have been kind of expected. 7-9 under Sean Payton was a gross underachievement.
Yeah, the foundation was rock solid.
7-9 under
with
that team, that talent was essentially the same as if, it felt like we went 3-13.
Yeah, my issue is asking for another 2017 draft is like asking for another Drew Brees to magically appear. It ain't gonna happen.
I think it's more likely than a Drew Brees appearing.
That I agree with.
It is more likely, but it's not very likely. You're asking, to either be attacked by a great white shark in Destin or get struck by lightning.
We've done it a couple times, to be fair.
2006 and 2017, but it's again, I don't see. We don't have the capital.
I don't see it either because it's very hard to do. I'm saying if it happened.
Yes, under 1 out of a million chance it happened, then yes, that would change my opinion of how we should attack the next couple of years.
Because you could roll right out of this thing if you nail a draft. I think you could literally roll right out of it because we'll be out of the cap hell in 2 years.
But my issue is how they've drafted in the last 3 or 4 years overall, with high picks.
You can roll out of it.
Missing, and then secondly, you just don't have that many draft picks or lottery tickets. You just don't have that many lottery tickets.
The only way we get back to being a Super Bowl contender, which is what we all agree we want to be, is with a different head coach and a new quarter. Not saying Derek Carr can't get us to the playoffs. If he's playing at his best.
I don't think you need a different head coach to get a Super Bowl contender. You would have to nail the QB.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but everyone praised the Eagles coach last year, and this year they were ready to fire him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you, that's what I'm just saying. If you have the team, I'd rather a mid coach and a badass team than I would an awesome coach with a mid team. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not. If you can get both, fantastic. That's just impossible.
It's not about what level of quality Dennis Allen falls on. I just don't see him leading a team to it. I just don't.
But if prime Drew Brees walked in like he did in 2006, I could easily see DA getting to a Super Bowl with.
What were our records in 7 and 8?
Yeah, I mean, if you
have to have the QB, and we don't have the QB.
No, what I'm saying, what was our record in 2007, 2008? Wasn't great.
7-9.
Right. And we won a Super Bowl next year. No one said Peyton was going to be the guy to lead us to the Super Bowl next year. That just wasn't a narrative.
That team was stacked, though.
Oh, it was loaded. And that draft became of age. They were all in their mid-20s from the 06 draft. They were all in their prime at the same time.
But I don't think you could compare that 08 Peyton to this current Dennis Allen.
Maybe not, but Peyton had a Hall of Fame QB and Allen doesn't. So I'm not going to say I can't. I agree with you 100%. Peyton is obviously way better than Dennis Allen.
Well, they both just...
But you have to at least put circumstances into context. If you have Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Pat Mahomes... Look at Reed's career with Mahomes and Reed's career, which was awesome without him. But look at the difference. It makes a huge difference.
You don't want to fall into the trap of being Mickey Loomis with the Chuck Noll, Landry, Belichick in comparison to Dennis Allen. It doesn't matter.
Correct. You should not do that.
We gave him so much shit about that because it
but
doesn't matter
who
you put around
either.
Well, I think what Nick is saying is if you fall ass backwards into a Drew Brees like we did in 2006, DA at that point, I mean, any coach is going to look good.
Right. That's not the same situation is what I'm saying.
I don't.
You have to at least acknowledge that.
If you were a Super Bowl contender if you had that quarterback.
A Drew Brees in year one versus Andy Dalton. Those are two different situations. I'm not saying anything about either coach. I'm just saying that is a vastly different situation.
Yeah.
And we will never know if DA would have done more with it. I happen to think he wouldn't. I know you two don't think he would have done.
Plenty of NFL teams have had we've done it. where like they have all the talent in the world and the team doesn't have the right culture to put it together. They just can't play consistent.
But do they have the QB?
They don't work hard.
Or these teams have the QB?
We've had Drew Brees and gone 7-9.
I just watched.
You know?
Did y'all watch the Patriots thing? The new documentary, the season where Tom Brady did not talk to Belichick the entire season. They won a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
they did not say a word to each other the entire season. If you have the dude, you have a chance.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying.
Brees dragged the worst statistical defense in NFL history to 7-9. I feel like with a pretty solid DA defense, Brees would drag that team to 11-6 or 12-5 with no problem.
It's just different because Max is right. Why did Peyton face zero criticism for putting out literally the worst defense in the history of the NFL still stands today? There was very little criticism for that. And
I think it was obvious the defense was the problem. I mean, the offense was
but he never did anything.
Humming.
Like, as a head coach, when the offense fails, were we not dogging Dennis Allen?
If Brees would have gotten hurt that year, that team would have lost every game.
They'd have lost every game they played. Every game.
But, like, we're not putting Sean Payton and Dennis Allen next to each other and saying these guys are in any way comparable as leaders. I'm
not worried about leaders. I'm worried about the quarterback. If you put Drew Brees in his prime next to either one of them, that's a playoff team.
All I'm saying, I want you to show me the coach who took the team that didn't have one of those guys for an extended period of time and won with nothing in the last 2 decades in the new NFL, where it's been all quarterback driven.
Yeah, no, nobody
There's
wins
flashes in the pan.
There's nothing, but I mean,
at quarterback, I'm just saying quarterback, not the team. Like, they just don't win.
Yeah, I mean, the outlier is the Eagles, like we've already mentioned.
Right. But Wentz, as we said, was having an MVP caliber season.
But like,
before he got hurt.
What Super Bowl winning coach would you even like allow DA to sniff his jock? You know, like who's
Doug Peterson, in my opinion.
Okay, besides the outlier that we said, you know, like who's?
If you give him prime Drew Brees,
I still don't.
Okay, let me ask you this: this team with Drew Brees, with Dennis Allen, doesn't win another game. They're not better than 9-8 with Drew Brees.
No, of course, no. Yeah, with Drew Brees, they're better than 9-8. But whether or not, if we're talking about DA as the future being a Super Bowl contender,
we all agree that we don't think he's that.
Yeah,
I don't. But all I'm saying is,
he could make a playoff. Yeah,
if
Brees.
Sean
you're missing the point. If a quarterback comes in that is like a Brees. I don't care if it's 2006 Brees
then you can
or
win,
2019 Brees.
Yeah, you can win the division.
They cover up a lot.
That is a Super Bowl contending team with DA. If Brees from any period from 06 to which is last year, 2020, anywhere from between 06 and 2020, if that Brees walks onto the team last year, that team is a Super Bowl contender and goes to the playoffs without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
That's what we're saying.
Without a doubt.
Like, not even in question. With that soft division we just had,
and to your credit,
like last year,
it would have nothing to do with DA whatsoever.
Exactly. We're not giving DA any credit. We're saying just having Brees on that team
would be enough to win, despite any shortcomings at head coach.
Well, it's not in spite. It's because,
of course it is.
No, because the defense was solid. The defense was fine.
No,
if Brees can drag the worst defense in NFL history to a 7-win season, he can take a top 10 defense and make that a Super Bowl contender.
It's despite DA as a head coach, not as a coordinator.
Brees couldn't throw deep, and we didn't go to the Super Bowl because of the no call and Jared Cook.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Marcus Williams.
He couldn't even throw deep. And that's true. Now, that wasn't...
But you know what
we weren't as good a team as we were the other teams.
The no call absolutely directly held us out of
100%. We were in the Super Bowl. And, you know...
You could transpose the Jared Cook year.
One more game at home. Probably.
What did we say for 15 years of the Brees era? Just give him a competent defense.
Just give him a 15. Just give him 15.
And the only thing...
This goes back to you saying, and agreeing with you, we absolutely failed.
The only thing keeping me from annoyingly arguing more with you is the fact that I've said the exact same thing. Okay, so if I'm listening to my own advice... And I have said the same thing, that if Brees just had
my only point is
top half defense.
No, look,
if Brees had a top half defense,
that's it.
Then no one could have stopped us.
He'd have been in 4 Super Bowls. Maybe
where did our defense finish last year?
I think 12 or 13.
There you go.
That would have been enough.
We always said, just get us into the top half.
Yeah, he was playing with
and the year before they were 5th. So let's keep that in mind.
The Super Bowl year, the overall ranking wasn't good. It was just that we
Yeah,
had the
look,
crazy
we
turnovers.
all we all don't like Da. None of us think Da is a Super Bowl winning coach. But the reality is, if you give any coach, any decent coach,
Drew Brees in a top half defense. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, the one thing DA has done has had a top half defense for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And a top 10 defense for 4 of them. He's done that job well. It's the head coaching job he doesn't do well. The leadership job, like Corey said, the PR. He's not that leadership type of person.
None of that matters if you have Brees, though.
I agree.
But, all right, so we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. It went a little longer than we expected, but always fun conversation. So, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks for listening.
Boom.